Hello and welcome to MTG-Profits. This is our 10th episode.
Woohoo!
That's right. So I've been at it for 10 solid weeks now. And we this is our Magic the Gathering podcast, primarily geared towards making you money, profiting off your cards that you both buy and sell. We try to get some interesting news in there, and today we have actually something special. We've got a special guest today. We're going to be joined by Travis.
What's up?
And as
Hey,
per
Travis.
usual, we've got Andy here on the line. And,
I'm here as well.
That's right.
This is exciting. I mean, our 10th episode, that's been, I guess 3 months of recording or so. And
Seems about right.
yeah, we're glad everyone has stuck with us. And as always, more fun to come. But I think we're excited to have Travis with us today and talk to him about some Magic.
That's right. That's right. One thing I wanted to mention is that for those of you that haven't caught on yet, we try to make the podcast available every Thursday. So if you're curious as to when to look for that drop, it's typically on Thursday. So
New
keep an
episodes
eye out.
every
Keep an ear
Thursday.
open.
Tune in and listen up.
That's right. That's right. So today we've got, I guess the big. Well, did you want to start with the news, Andy, first, or did you want to talk with Travis a little bit more and do some interview questions? What are your thoughts?
Let's talk with Travis to kind of bring him into everything and kind of introduce him to everybody and get kind of his take on Magic and some background and some questions, and then we can dive into the news as a group and
Excellent.
Get into our picks of the week.
So I guess let's get a little bit of background first. Maybe, Travis, tell us a little bit about how you got into Magic and sort of when you started playing and that kind of stuff, because that's always a little bit interesting. Everybody's got their story to tell.
Sure. First of all, thanks for having me. Happy to be here. Glad to be here.
Yay, Travis.
Yeah. So I first was introduced to Magic when I was about 8 years old, and this was like during the Mirage block. So I had a good friend who had an older brother who was huge into it. I didn't really play, but he would let us dig through his commons and his bulk cards, and I'd pick out cards and just kind of look at those. And I was always kind of like fascinated by the artwork and the game as a whole. And then I would say I really started learning the rules and playing the game a few years later. I guess that'd be like with the Mercadian Mass block. So what was that?
Okay.
Like 1999-ish, 2000-ish?
Sounds about right.
Something
somewhere,
like that. Yeah.
somewhere in that area. So started really playing there and learning the game, and then I would say I got started to get kind of competitive with it, taking it a little bit more seriously around the Lorwyn block. So I guess about 5-6 years after that.
Yeah, that was a fun time in Magic.
Yeah,
enjoyed the Lorwyn
that
a
I
lot.
think still that whole block holds a special place in my heart. That's a good block.
Yeah, I agree. That was a fun time in Magic. It really, like, I look back and with fond memories on that block in particular. There are some really good ones, and that's a standout one to me.
Yeah, I think it was such a lighter tone back in that block with the Kithkin and the Goblins and the Giants, and I don't know, just a lot more, seemed more upbeat, I guess.
The mechanics seemed fun. They did a good job with design. The drafting was fun. The tribal themes. They did it was really tight. There were cards that from that block that we still play today. So there were, some evergreen cards that really stood the test of time, but it was really a really pretty solid Magic time. Yeah.
So after Mercadian Mass, did you still continue on with Magic after that, Travis, or did you take any breaks, or?
Yeah, I mean, I would play casual, like a kitchen table Magic, I guess is what you'd call it. So I'd make decks, play with friends, but I would say Lorwyn is when I started going to the local game store and really, seeing, oh man, there's some good decks out there and there's some good players, and this is something that I want to, kind of really get into, really dive into, and and kind of explore all the things that the game had to offer.
So I guess what was like your experience, going to the game stores and that? Did you have like friends that you went and you played with, or did you just kind of show up and find a group, or how did that work out for you?
It 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 was a mix of both.
Okay.
I'd go occasionally with some friends, and some of them would get into it a little more, and then make new friends once you're there, and start to meet up outside of that. So it was kind of a mix of both worlds.
I know it's sort of a different time too, and when I know when I started, pretty much Andy too. It seemed we started quite a bit earlier back in the revised time, so it was I want to say
Right.
like mid '90s. There were no venues to play the game. It was all kitchen table all the time.
Yep.
There was no competitive scene. I remember those old Scry magazines to see the how expensive the cards were, and I remember it was sort of a different experience. There was no formalized play groups, there was no Wizards
No.
Play Network, and
None of that.
and I remember even like finding rulings on exactly how the stack worked and stuff. I don't know how many times we'd get into little aggravated arguments about how that stuff worked, because it was not something that was clear in the instructions in that little rule book that
Yep.
came in
Right.
your starter deck from your revised pack. So it was in a way I sort of envy the newer players that have that sort of experience, but as far as like more organized play.
Yeah, it
But
was
on the-
just
you know,
a
on the-
different time. Do you guys remember? Did you ever see the old Magic the Gathering commercials that were on in those times? They got like Jim Henson
yeah.
Studios to make the commercials.
Yes.
They were
Remember that.
amazing. Just amazing.
Yeah, funny stuff. Yeah, it wasn't something. I remember even at one point they were, thinking about making a movie or something like that too, and that sort of died on the vine. And every once in a while they dabble in the idea of trying to branch out a little bit, mostly with pretty epic flops. But
Right.
Yeah, it seems I don't know, a lot of the related kind of media and things with Magic was just not good. I mean,
yeah,
the books
Unfortunately.
come to mind.
oh
for
god,
me.
it's so awful, those books.
Well,
They
if
were
you
so
went-
bad they had to give them away. They would give them away in the fat packs. or
Yeah,
whatever
yeah, the Lorwyn Fat Packs. If you got all four in that block, you got the whole set of books. I remember that very distinctly.
Yeah,
Oh.
they did that for quite some time, it seems to me. They would have like, what was it, like 5 packs, a book, and the little box. Man, those books were some awful reads.
I remember trying to read one and I couldn't finish it. I was like, this is terrible.
It's a rare book that I can't finish, and I will say, like, some of those Magic books like are unreadable. So just god awful things, which is a shame because I remember at around the same time Wizards bought TSR.
hmm
So before
Right.
Hasbro owned Wizards bought TSR. That's when they gained the rights to all the Dungeons and Dragons stuff, and you would think they would have some authors that could write some books. At the time they were churning out decent books. I don't know where they went so wrong. It's terrible.
Oh yeah, that tanked bad.
Yeah, it's like, well, oh gosh, that was some bad stuff. But yeah, so basically you started a couple of years, I guess, into sort of organized play realistically, and now have you been playing consistently ever since, or did you have like breaks in the middle there, which is relatively typical? I've
I
had
played, I would say, fairly consistently up until the second Zendikar block. And then I kind of stepped away and moved over to Netrunner, and that game really kind of took up my time. And then Netrunner, I don't know if you guys are aware, but it's pretty much died. So
Yeah, they
now
quit.
I'm back to Magic.
They quit making that, and I'm not sure what the details are with that.
remember
Did they lose
seeing
the
that.
licensing, or
Yeah, some issue with the licensing and wanting more money for the license that they just weren't willing to pay, and
and that was
as
it?
a result, that was it.
Yeah,
Wow.
that was also another Richard Garfield game.
Yep.
Yeah,
Huh.
at least originally. Yeah, Richard Garfield was behind both Magic and the Netrunner as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, I still
interesting
regret not
factoid.
fully playing that or getting into it. I know, Travis, you tried to teach me a couple times, and I literally still have all the cards sitting in my closet, and I still wish had played more, or
It's
really at all.
it's a phenomenal game. It's a tough game to, I think, to like click for a lot of people.
Mhm.
It takes 5 or 6 full games to really say, okay, now I get it. But once you do, it's a phenomenal game. There's nothing else like it.
Ah, it's good. It's a shame. It's a shame. You hate to see good things go.
Hmm.
It's kind of sad. So speaking of seeing good things go, well, actually, I guess we should probably. Do we want to continue on with some news, or did we want to ask a few more questions? I know, Andy, you might have had
We
a
certainly
few.
got time for some more questions. I mean, before we bust into some news.
I know Andy was hoping to find out the size of your collection.
Oh, well,
Oh, well, I guess that is
that's
a question
that's a little
because
personal, but
well, we dive deep into this into all details here. It does come to mind, along those lines, because I think, Travis, you had kind of gotten out of Magic and you had sold cards and things, and then you came back. So
yes,
was that
yes.
something like that? Yeah.
So there was a time when my collection was enough of those long boxes to completely fill under my bed in my entire closet. And when I sold out of Magic, I had enough cards to buy a car. So
Wow, you
completely.
had you went into it hard then at a pretty
Oh,
early age.
oh yeah. I mean, every card I ever got or traded for, I held on to. I never gave them away, and um, yeah, I just kept amassing cards. And as people kind of dropped out of the game, they would give me their cards and their collections, and so I just built and built. But yeah, it was a substantial amount. I don't recall an exact dollar amount, but basically anything worth more than $1, I sold off. And so now that I'm getting back into Magic, I still have a few good boxes of commons, and so I play a lot of Pauper now,
Okay.
which is a lot of fun actually. I'm
It
really
is.
enjoying
It's a
that.
very good format. Yep.
Um, but I haven't really pursued a lot of going out and buying packs or specific cards. I mostly play Pauper and limited, so anything I have now is small limited collection basically.
Geared toward that.
Yeah.
It's funny because I think part of the problem is that it's challenging to get back into it after a hiatus because the frequency of the release schedule is so aggressive. And, just by the time you start getting comfortable and learning your cards again, they're starting to rotate now. And it really takes a dedicated player to sort of maintain like an active standard competitive deck.
Perspective, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, and that's been super difficult for me getting back into the game. Is I've missed a few sets and all these new keywords that I now have to remember, and these cards that everyone else at the table knows, and it's like I don't know what
You're like,
this
I've never
card
seen
is.
this
But
before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
yeah.
it just sometimes I see these cards at the local game store that I sold for maybe $40 or $50, going for $100 to $200, and I'm thinking, wow. If
Yeah.
I could have held on for 2 more years, 3
Couple
more years,
Yeah.
what would have happened?
Yeah, it's a shame, especially like a lot of those like revised dual lands and things. Those are cards that a lot of us owned,
Mhm.
at one point, and they're like the currency of Magic. They're easy, they're relatively liquid, they're easy to buy and sell, but man, you look back and you think, holy cow.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it is crazy how all these old cards, the prices have just skyrocketed on them.
Yeah.
It's just really things you wouldn't think would be worth money are now worth something.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually looking through my cards the other day, and I found a playset of Celestial Colonnades that I somehow slipped. And I remember picking those up for $2 or $3 when they first came out.
Wow. Yep.
I
Yeah.
off chance looked them up, and they're what, 80 or 90 or something ridiculous.
They're really
Just
high.
ridiculous.
About 60, I think, last I recall.
Okay.
Yeah.
It might be time to instantly dump them.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's what I'm
we'll get to that. Yeah. I did
Their
dump one of
time
those
is at an
lately.
end.
Yeah, I sold one I don't know, about a month ago or so for, I don't know, around 60, I think.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's great. That's
Yeah.
great.
Signed copy. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. But speaking of like selling cards and stuff, I mean, so you got rid of your collection. How did you do it? Like, was there a specific like Star City Games, or how did you dispose of everything?
So I had a good buddy of mine who was opening up a game store. He had owned a comic book store and was basically closing it down, rebranding, and opening it up as a game store. And so he was looking for inventory to
Ah,
basically stock his store. And so
okay.
he and I worked out a deal, and he gave me, not MSRP for a
Sure.
lot of these things, but he gave me a fair price on them, and it helped him out, helped me out. So it was a good deal.
Nice. So
That's
that
great.
actually worked out really well for you because it is a challenge to move cards, especially in these low dollar amounts, these $1 to $2 ranges. So it's nice if you could say, "Hey, what do you say? I sell you my entire collection."
Right, and he had a couple of new employees who really didn't have much to do besides look through boxes of cards and pull
Mm.
out,
Nice.
$2 cards, $3 cards, that sort of thing. So it was really lucky timing, really fortunate.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. So how's he doing now with his? Is he still in business? Is he still functioning? You want to
Oh yeah, his
give him a
his
little
store
shout out here?
is thriving. It's doing great. It's up in Winchester, Virginia. I don't know what it's called now. I never caught the new name of it, but it's doing real well. Doing real well.
Oh, excellent.
Oh, that's
Oh,
good.
very good.
Hmm. Yeah, that's probably a topic of discussion for a future podcast, or even a little now. Like, just how would you go about selling a collection? We talk about individual cards and things like that, but if you got boxes upon boxes, what are you gonna do?
It's a really tough thing. You end up having to buy list all the cards, and you really sort of almost have to sit down in front of somebody at like a GP and just dump out all the good cards that you've got, and they just throw them into little piles. They take your
Yeah,
cards that are worth like $2 and put them in the 10-cent pile, and all your cards that are worth $5 go into the 50-cent pile, and
Hmm.
and they pull all that out in that sort of fashion, and before you know it, you've got stacks of cards, and they say, all right, we'll give you $400, and that's the only way to really move them quick. Other than
Hmm.
that, it's like maybe Craigslist or something like that. But
Yeah,
yeah,
Craigslist or maybe eBay, just bulk
yeah.
collections. Sometimes you see those sell, but
yeah,
yeah, it's
I
tough to do.
almost yeah, I think it's challenging. I think almost Craigslist is better than eBay, quite simply because on eBay people are sort of trained not to be skeptical, I would say, of these collections, which
Sure.
I think is
Hmm.
reasonable because you'll see some of these things and you're like, oh, I don't know what that's worth, and so I think it's almost easier just to unload them in front of a person.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
right.
I guess you're always gonna be, you're never gonna get the actual cost of.
Oh, heck no.
Uh,
If you can get like 30% of the value of the cards, you're probably uh, doing well.
hmm. It reminds me too, because I was looking at a Craigslist the other day just for Magic cards for sale, and this guy had his whole list of cards, and he had, I can't remember now what site he had them all listed on, but he had some sort of collection site where he had his whole list, and there were some decent cards in there. There was like a Tolarian Academy and Academy Rector, and a couple other older cards, a couple newer cards. And the prices he had listed, I mean, some were kind of market price, fair price, but some were actually more than market price.
Yeah,
So,
people are sort of funny about that
like,
now.
what?
You
You
don't go to
know?
Craigslist to get a deal anymore. It's not like, oh, I found this in grandma's closet. I don't know what these cards are worth, but
Hmm.
you never those days are gone. It's everybody sort of knows the value of the cards now, and
Yeah.
it's funny, but he's never going to get that obviously,
Well,
but he's
yeah, that's what
hoping
I
he.
was thinking right off the bat. I'm like, why would I pay, what you're charging, which is market price, when, I can get it exactly the same or potentially cheaper. Um,
Yeah, he'll be sitting on those cards forever.
yeah, exactly. I'm like, well,
It's crazy.
Hmm.
doesn't make much sense unless you're going to give it a little bit of a deal.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know one thing too. You had mentioned before, Travis, about we were in like some of our past episodes. We've kind of railed a little bit about like the local game stores and how Wizards has
Right.
done all sorts of kind of changes lately with their distribution and how they're selling things and how that's impacted the local game stores. What do you think about all these changes, and where's that going to lead these game stores?
Um, that's it's tough to say. It's Wizards right now has the premier gaming product, right? Any game store you go into, they carry Magic, and that's kind of their front runner. And I think Wizards knows that, and they know that they can, no game store is going to survive unless they carry Magic the Gathering, and they carry a lot of it. And so they kind of they have these stores in a tight spot where, they if the stores don't carry it, they're not going to do well, but the stores have to carry it, and Wizards can charge what they want, and they can offer what they want, and they can really strong arm these stores. And it's kind of, disheartening to see at times, because I know a few people who own game stores, and it's, the amount of money that they're bringing in from the game itself is not that big, and the amount of inventory or store space that has to be taken up by this game. Now, granted, it's a card game. It's not like a giant board game that takes up a ton of shelf space.
Sure.
But they still have to, they have to keep all of these singles and all of these trade-ins and all these things because otherwise people will find those cards elsewhere. And then you see these things like you guys mentioned before, direct selling to Amazon. And Wizards can do that, and they know that game stores will continue to carry their product because they have to. So it's interesting to see.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a shame. They seem to really be almost turning their nose up at the local game store sort of community as a whole. The sort of, I guess, foundation of, I would say, a lot of the success that Wizards has had with Magic has sort of been born on the backs of some of these local game stores.
Right.
It sort of gives people a place to play. It gives, Wizards a venue with which to move their product. And I think they should realistically embrace the model that has made the game what it is today, and not really take a giant steaming turd on it. Instead of having, products like Masters products, printed and available in Walmart and Target, and they should have these as local game store exclusive items or things of that nature.
Right. And you see this some too with the players themselves. Do you remember, did you guys ever sign up for, I forgot what their
player rewards.
Was. Yeah,
player
rewards
cards,
yeah,
and you would
great.
get these full art awesome cards in the mail every once in a while, and now
great.
you see, that's gone. I feel like a lot of the incentives for going to like a pre-release event, those sort of things are no longer there.
They've been dramatically diminished. Absolutely.
Yeah, and this upcoming master set, how much are they charging for that? It's
MSRP is going to be $334, I believe.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And it doesn't cost them any more to make that set than it does any other set. So
No. In fact, it'll probably be cheaper because they'll probably be still printed on the same Pringle paper that they've been using recently.
Right. Yeah.
So
they didn't have to hire new artists or get new artwork or anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No R&D costs.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it'll be curious to see. I guess MSRP on that product will be in the 330s. I think I guess we should probably introduce the product. It's the big news item for the day, and
we keep touching on. We could chat some more with Travis, I guess. But let's dive into it then. So I guess the big news this week, which was I guess teased over the weekend, I think, on some Twitters and things like that, and then Wizards finally came out on their site Monday and actually fully announced it, was the Ultimate Masters set.
Yeah, I even find the name funny. Ultimate Masters.
Ultimate.
They say it'll be the final Masters set. And I think they should put a little asterisk by that until and it should say until we need to print more money. So it's kind of funny the final. They're just like, oh, we're done with printing core sets. Core sets are back.
Core sets are back.
So they should probably put a little asterisk that says Master sets are over for 2018.
And until the next one.
Until 2019. So funny. But so I guess the whole deal with this is it's going to be a 24-pack box. And I guess the what makes this special is they're going to put a quote unquote box topper, which will be another random card from within the set, exactly, and it'll be full art, a sort of premium sought after product. And these are going to be a lot of high dollar cards, but unfortunately some low dollar cards you pray you don't get one of those in one of your boxes. But the funny thing about it is, even though it's got such a really high MSRP, I really think they'll probably sell a whole lot of these boxes. I don't know if I like that direction, but you can't blame them for doing it just because it's, and I want to say, didn't Mark Rosewater say recently in his his little Twitter feed that if as long as we keep buying the products, they'll keep making them.
Yeah.
So I think
Sure.
because they've tested the water now with several expensive premium products. Even going back a little bit to Modern Masters 2013, at $7 a booster. That was the first time they sort of altered the price, and then they said, well, they got the player base gobbled that up. Let's churn out some more. And so then we had 2015, 2017. People lapped it up. Eternal Masters, went crazy on that. And they seem to keep having MSRPs at $10 a pack. So why not $14 a pack?
Yeah, sure.
Why not? If people keep buying it, it would almost make bad business sense not to make them. But I don't know if I am a fan of these box toppers, quite simply because it almost feels like Wizards is trying to sell singles to the players.
Yeah.
And I think it's sort of one of those slippery slope kind of problems where, the moment they start selling singles, they start, directly manipulating the secondary market in ways that I think may have some strange, unforeseen consequences. I think they're aware of that, and I think they're dabbling slowly, but
So you think maybe kind of experimenting and
I think so.
going to happen?
I think they're attempting to do it carefully by having them be masked packs, but I think it'll be probably successful, even though I don't really like the direction that it's going in. Look at what was the other one they just released? The Guilds of Ravnica Masters pack, and they sold out in I think a day of all of those, and those were expensive booster boxes too, and they were terrible. I mean the full art ones looked great, but they were like 8 special boosters, and
Oh yeah, that's right.
were standard boosters in Guilds of Ravnica, and I think they were charging $250 a box, I believe.
The sealed promo card or the box toppers is interesting. I don't know if you guys have seen on Reddit or some other sites, but I guess you can shine a light through the packaging and you can actually see what those toppers are. So they say really be careful on like a secondary market. If someone's advertising a sealed topper, they've probably already looked at it and they know it's a garbage one. So.
Wow, that's a great move, Wizards. Really
Wow.
Great quality control there.
Jeez.
Holy cow.
Mm-hmm.
Good grief. I had not heard that. That's interesting.
Wow.
That seems like something you would have figured out before you released that.
Exactly. Some product testing here. Come on.
Or put a insert card on either side of the topper.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Anything. Or just make it not here.
Yeah.
Like regular booster pack material. It seems like every time they change the booster packs, they screw something up. They say, we're going to use more environmentally friendly cardboard boxes. And then the cards come out all destroyed from like Modern Masters 2015. You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, and then they were resealable. They could be re-glued.
It's funny. Even we were when we were drafting that 2 weekends ago or whatever it was, and opening up some packs of guilds. I think it was either Guilds or Ravnica or Dominaria, and some of the cards were backwards. It was like, why are they backwards in the pack? It seems.
Yeah. Quality control has been really.
Now, I've been the beneficiary of some poor quality control before. We've opened packs with multiple Lilianas in the same pack. We're talking
Wow.
4 or 5 or 6 Lilianas
Wow.
Oh my!
stacked in a box. So, you know,
Wow. I have never
Jeez.
had that kind of luck.
Yeah,
That is phenomenal.
that I've never
That's
seen a
pretty good.
box sell so fast as when someone opened that first pack. So,
Holy
Wow.
cow. That is amazing. I've never seen such a thing.
yeah, it was. I don't know how it happened, but
Wow.
it was crazy.
That is neat. Yeah, you love that. You're like, oh, I'll take 4 Lilianas.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Good
yeah.
deal. Holy cow.
Wow. That
So,
reminds me of like what was it? It was way back in was it Zendikar or whatever? Where there was supposedly like inserted
the buried
cards.
treasure or priceless treasures they were
Yeah.
called.
It was like where you might get like cards from
Original Power 9 cards.
Yeah.
Right.
Reserve list cards. Yeah. The original I guess lottery card.
Yeah.
Those were legit. I don't know anyone who pulled any of those. But,
No, I never never heard of that either,
but apparently they were in there.
It happened,
Priceless
yeah.
treasures they were called. Yep.
yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. It's funny, speaking of lottery cards, I know that the moment they released the news about this Ultimate Masters, instantly on eBay, you started seeing people flooding the market with their masterpiece cards, their full art masterpieces. So it may almost be a reasonable time to start looking at the masterpiece cards as potential purchase targets for then resale at a later time. So there's been some panic selling on some of those. So
Everyone thinks they're going to be part of the Ultimate Masters.
well, I guess they've already listed the entire list of the Ultimate Masters, at least the box topper.
Yeah, I thought it was just a box topper so far. There's
So
40 of those listed.
Yeah, I think people are just afraid that they're starting to get a sense that this is just the tip of the iceberg, and Wizards is all about printing full art cards and specialty cards, and that maybe the masterpieces are not as unique as people had been hoping, at least when they had purchased them for investment purposes. So I think it's very dangerous whenever you see someone advertise a product as an investable product or a collector's edition, like they are for some of this stuff like this Ultimate Masters, Anytime you start seeing collector's edition and things and limited supply, red flags should immediately start going up, where you should think of them almost as just the opposite. This is not a collector's, it's just the opposite.
The Beanie Baby effect.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to make tons of money off these Beanie Babies. I had a couple, but they didn't.
Did you really?
A girlfriend at the time, her mom, I think, she bought a whole bunches of those things. So they had, 20 Beanie Babies or whatever. And I was like, wow, what are you going to do with all those things?
Yeah,
but,
it's an odd thing.
People went crazy.
Yeah, I guess they always do. It's like whatever new fad comes out.
But funny. I guess too, like the box topper ones. I mean, they're nicer cards. I mean, they're no borders on them.
It's taken Wizards forever to produce quality looking cards.
They look nicer,
Yeah.
Whether that's worth it, I don't know, but
I think there's always going to be an interest in a premium chase looking card, for people to pimp out their commander deck or things of that nature. I think there's always a demand for that. I think that
it builds up a lot of hype for the product too. I mean, I remember when they first announced Mythic Rares and how excited everyone was that these cards are going to be actually rare. You might see 1 or 2 played, and at your game store at night. But the hype died down and people realized what they were, and that was that.
Yeah. I think that's about right. Yep. So what are your thoughts on the Ultimate Masters, Andy, Travis? You guys plan to buy a box of this, or is this going to be a pass for you? What are your thoughts?
Personally, I'm going to pass. That's a lot of money for...
It is. It's a good chunk
cards.
Of change.
It's a good chunk of change. And I'm a big fan of the Master sets. I love to draft. I love cube drafting and kind of mixing up outside of the block draft. But for me, that's a little steep, and I can't justify it now. If someone comes to me, a friend of mine, and says, "I really want to do one draft," I'll consider buying 3 packs, but
Even
that would
tough,
be a one-time thing.
Yeah, even that's tough to swallow when it's like a $50 draft.
Right.
Yeah,
like,
that's a lot.
It's funny because literally like at $14 a pack plus prize support, that's gonna be a $50 draft.
Right.
Yep.
You're sitting there scratching your head thinking, well, I could draft like 4 or 5 times for that. Is it going to be that much better in experience? I think the answer to that is a clear, obvious no. But
yeah, I mean, I agree with Travis on this one. I would pass on this as well. I mean, like you said, ultimately the price is, I think, just too high. I mean, $335 is very expensive.
And that's MSRP, so it may actually be a little higher, especially at the LGS.
The box toppers are kind of it's a nice little promotional thing, but I'd be curious too to see what are the other cards in this set. So there's 254 cards. What are the rest of them?
Yeah, it's a good question.
We don't know yet.
I think, just sort of playing devil's advocate, I think I'm actually on the opposite end of this argument for the simple fact that I think Wizards will probably not want to screw this up. Yeah. I think they're probably going to print cards that are in demand in multiple formats, probably including Commander, even Pauper. I think we'll see good uncommons. I think they're probably going to go like Masters 2017 quality, where probably even a notch better. And then to top it off, they'll throw those box toppers on there.
Yeah.
And I think what we're going to see is they will print these aplenty. Probably not iconic Masters level, but probably like Masters 2015 or Masters 2017 level, where they probably don't have a reprint run, but probably an original print run that is substantial.
It says supplies are limited.
Yeah, again, you got to really be careful with that.
With an asterisk.
Yeah, with an asterisk is right. But I think I will pay close attention to these a couple of weeks after release and see what they do on eBay. Yeah. And if I can snatch them up for if I can snatch them up for $250 to $260, I probably will buy a box or two, not to open, just to sit. And with the express intent purpose of selling them within 1 to 2 years later, a minimum of 1 year. Yeah. Because I think what'll happen is you'll get a little bit of a bounce back on these. Because what'll happen is the price will tank, the hype will end, a couple of weeks to a month in when everyone's already forgotten about it, and a couple of the eBay sellers and the distributors and the mass drops, crush the price. Like Sports and More, they'll sell them. They'll make $2 of profit per box. Selling these things, and that's when you want to buy when the price craters, and the local game stores that have spent $25,000 on 100 boxes, and they're sitting there thinking, I have got to unload these boxes. I cannot sit on them because it ties up so much liquid capital for these LGSs. I think you will reach a sort of nice price capitulation point, and I don't think the stores are going to hoard them. I think it's too expensive to hoard for the same reason that people won't want to buy them. And I actually think that if you could get in at the right price and be a little bit patient, I think because it's the first time a box topper has been done, and it's supposedly the last master set, and I think Wizards doesn't want to screw this up like they did Iconic and Masters 25, I actually suspect the cards are going to be pretty good. So if I can get it right, if I can get in at the right price, and the price for me would probably be in the $250. I might stretch to $259 or something, but I might do that just for the sake of flipping it later. But it would have to sit on it.
Yeah, I would think this price would turn a lot of people off.
Absolutely it would. But the funny thing too now is that they've said, expressly, this is the last master set. Yeah. You sort of get a funny, it sort of bookends things, and you get people that just want to collect things to collect them. And the first and the last tend to do pretty well. The first especially, And this sort of has
Got
the
it.
first box topper
Yep.
and the last Masters. So I don't know. I'm a little bit, like
I
I
agree. I
said,
mean, those are some good.
yeah, a little bit on the devil's advocate
Yeah.
side on that one. But not that I am fond of the extreme pricing. That
Yeah.
is, and I am also not a fan of putting the box toppers in. But I'm
Yeah.
also not averse to profiting from it if they do.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like
Yeah.
I don't smoke, nor do I recommend smoking, but I would own Philip Morris stock.
But you would sell cigarettes?
I would
You sell
I
some
would
cards?
own like I hear there's some magic cards that make good cigarettes.
You know, for those who do pull a one of the more rare or one of the more sought after box toppers, I mean, there are some really nice cards, and you guys have seen how much things like Judge promos go for, like a Judge
Yes.
promo Vindicate. I mean, and if they're not going to get reprinted, especially not this edition or this style, you know, sky's the limit for how high or how much these cards could go for in the future.
People do like to pimp their decks out, and there's always a market for it. You're exactly right.
Do you think these reprinted cards here are going to drop the existing cards? Like, is it going to have a significant effect on, the existing Emrakul or
I don't think so when the MSRP
Snapcaster?
pack is so expensive. I don't think it's going to destroy the value like other reprints do. Quite simply because in order to get them, you got to pay $15 a pack.
Yeah.
So it sort of limits the amount of drop that you're going to get. Because I tell you, if you buy the pack for $15 and you pop an Emrakul out there, the last thing you want to do is sell it for $6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll have as deleterious effect on the market as regular reprints do. So, and I think they're also, that's another reason why I think they're probably playing a little bit of 4D chess with us a little bit as far as how much do they want to price this, because I think they're paying close attention to the secondary market, trying to figure out a way to make money on the secondary market without overtly saying, we want to sell you individual cards.
Yeah.
So I think they're being careful. They don't want to destroy that. It's like the golden goose. They don't want to kill it with, by overfeeding it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you think this will be a set that people do buy a lot of but don't open in hopes of it appreciating in value in the future?
I would imagine that would be the case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I would not sit here and have a $250 box or, a $300 box. I would never open that box. I would, because the way my luck is, I'd open $80 worth of cards. So I would never open the shrink wrap on that bad boy. He would be occupying some shelf space.
I guess you're guaranteed. Well, pretty much guaranteed one good card.
Yeah, well, maybe it'd be my luck
Probably.
that I'd get the full art version of one of the cards. Oh, God, I don't know. I have terrible luck. Terrible.
Yeah. I will say that the new art on some of them looks pretty good. A lot of good reprints here too. I mean, Liliana of the Veil and
Snappy.
Snapcaster. Yeah.
Tarmogoyf's on there.
Tarmogoyf is back. Hierarch. Yeah. I mean, good stuff. I mean, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Dude, one other thing too I thought was kind of interesting, just in the way they presented this, and I was just reading one of the Wizards articles, which just was kind of goes back to what we were talking about before. And to quote from the Wizards site here, they said, we're sending the Master Series off in style it deserves. Ultimate Masters is a limited run, premium set that is unique and collectible. We understand that it might not be for everyone, and that's okay. If you're looking for a unique, cool product with a collectible twist, then Ultimate Masters might be up your alley. It just kind of seems like a weird, I don't know, that phrasing just kind of stuck out to me, I guess. We understand you might not want to buy it. That's okay if you don't want to give us all your money.
I think they're probably trying to placate the general user base by also appealing to the whales. They're like, we know there are people that will waste all their money on this. They will bust that card out and start swiping away. And we love you. But we also don't want to piss off everyone that loves our game.
Yeah.
So they're like, you don't have to buy our expensive cards. You can buy the regular version of Liliana the Veil.
Yeah, I guess so. Well,
I don't know. I don't know how that would make me feel as a new player getting into the game, seeing this
Yeah.
product on the shelf at $300 and some dollars, and it
And
being this
especially when
elite product. And I don't know if it would really. It might turn me off of the game entirely, to be
I
honest.
think that's a fair point. I think that sort of produces like a disresonance, because you're sitting here thinking what you've heard is that it's expensive to play. And now what you're seeing is, holy God, look at this elite product. It's so expensive. $15 for 15 cards, good grief. There's no way I could play at a level that would be competitive or fun with everybody else who's been collecting the game for 10 years. And
Right.
So you're right about that. I think that's definitely would have some off-putting, send out some off-putting vibes. I think you're 100% on that.
Definitely be a
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I'm sure whatever's going to happen, Wizards is going to make money. So we'll definitely report on the results.
It's
They're
funny
good at
because at the end of every year is when they pop out these little surprises, and it's always for the players. I want to say, was it last year or no? Was it even the year before? They reprinted or they released the second wave of Eternal Masters, and they said, oh, it's because there was so much demand, and it always at the end of the year when Hasbro needs to turn in some decent numbers, they will come out with some end of the year product or surprise that just pushes them over the edge. And
that makes sense.
Yeah,
I mean,
that trend has made itself plain over the last.
And like you guys mentioned before, I mean, they've got the artwork. That's all taken care of. It's just a question of just printing it all and print it, package it, and ready to go. Just print that money out.
Yeah. I think so. We'll see, but I would anticipate they'll do something the same next year and then the year after. And
Probably.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Supreme Masters.
Supreme Ultimate Masters.
Supreme Ultimate Masters. 2.
Well, I think it's probably about time for us to move on to our picks for the week here. Start wrapping up here. I guess, Travis, I think we'll give you the honors, man.
Yeah, go first, man.
First guest on the show ever. You deserve first pick.
All right. Guest.
Awesome. Well, I have 2 picks for the week.
Okay.
My first one is the new Teferi. I think that's a card that is only going to increase in value. I think that's a Jace 2.0, if you will. The newer sets that come out or are coming out seem to be hinting at a lot more blue and white control, and I think that card is super strong, and people like to play it. So I think he's only going to continue to climb.
The Fairy Hero of Dominaria.
That's the one.
From Dominaria.
Yep. He's single-handedly holding up those box prices.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And my second pick is a much cheaper card. It's a common Fairy Macabre. It's I believe it's 2 black and a colorless for a 2/2 flyer. Yep. You can discard it from your hand to exile 2 cards from a graveyard. And it's a card that, it a lot of times hovers around the 20 or 30 cent mark. It saw a spike at like $4 or $5 at one point.
Yeah.
And then it got reprinted in one of the master sets, and then a couple other things. But it's a card that if you look online trying to buy it, like I said, I play Pauper, and I was actually looking for some the other day. It's not easy to come by. It's a card that you can play in a lot of different decks, and it's not the easiest to interact with. And I think it's just a strong all-around card that, who knows, it may hit a couple dollar mark here in the future.
Nice.
Yeah, it looks like it's going for about 80 cents or so now.
Okay.
Nice. Yeah, it's
and
always
Teferi,
cards with the special effects, I think, have potential. Atypical abilities.
Mm-hmm.
And Teferi's hovering around about 50 right now.
So what are your thoughts as far as at 50 clams, the Teferi's not a cheap one. So what are your thoughts about him approaching rotation? When do you think you would buy him if you were thinking, I don't have any Teferis? What are your thoughts as to timing and when to buy? Are you of the opinion that now is the time to buy him? Would you try to get him, as he approaches rotation, or as after rotation for use in more eternal formats? What are your thoughts in that regard?
Personally, I would wait until rotation, unless he's already climbing, approaching that point. A lot of times you see this towards the end of rotation, the power cards will climb a little bit towards the end and then take a big drop. But other ones, as they start to see more play in other formats, they'll start to climb drastically before rotation. And I would start to buy them then. I don't think you can go wrong waiting until after the rotation. I think there will always be a little dip then, but a lot of cards tend to recover from that dip pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think that's about right. I'm in the same opinion there. I think unless you need them to play standard with now,
right,
I would probably hold off until 4 months prior to rotation if I had to pick a time, because that's when people start thinking, oh, I'm going to start getting rid of these while the price is good. And you're right, because sometimes after rotation they'll tick up if the demand is high, but right around rotation is I think ideal.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, especially if you can wait. If you can wait, you hold off. If you need them to play with, you need them to play with. What are you going to do? Unless you're Scott, then you just
then you just make a
fire up the printer and just do it out. So that's a different animal entirely.
That's a different episode.
Exactly. Wow, very good. I like those picks.
Teferi's been on the climb.
He sure has.
Steadily going up.
Yeah, I think a lot of that is standard demand as well. So I think you probably could get a deal on him if you have the ability to be patient. Great card, though.
Yeah.
I think you're right about the blue-white, too. I think we need a resurgence. We haven't seen too many control-y decks lately. There's been a lot of mid-range decks and, spurts of sort of these aggressive aggro-style decks. We haven't really seen a good blue-white control deck. And I think... it's funny because I think the Azorius is going to be coming out in the next set too. So it'll be curious to see. Watch him climb even more. Watch me eat my words and think, damn, at $50 that Teferi was a deal. Now he's 72.
Yeah.
So it may surprise me, but it's interesting. Very good. So how about you, Andy? What have you got as a pick for the week?
I got, I'll do two real quick ones here. First, from Ixalan, Unclaimed Territory. This was a land, an uncommon land. As it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type, and you can add a colorless to your mana pool, and then you can add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Spend this mana only to cast a creature spell of the chosen type. This one's kind of gone up and down. It's hovering around 160 or so right now. I could see this easily going back up to $2, $3, $4 maybe over time. Something like this, that mana fixing for a tribe, basically. So, whatever you're playing, it doesn't matter. Merfolks, goblins, dragons, whatever. Pick that creature type, and you can throw that in that deck. I think it's got a high utility like that. I mean, we saw what was it? Eldrazi Temple was a big one. Cavern of Souls, all these other ones that are specific for a creature type. Those have all done well, and this one we saw recently, the Ancient Ziggurat, that jumped high in price. I sold all of mine when that spiked.
Yeah, did as well.
I could see this one easily jumping up. It's got a high utility.
I think it's not a bad pick, especially in light of the fact that it's from a much maligned set. Really, people hated the Ixalan, hated the Rivals. It was like the first block after the printing of lottery cards.
Yep.
After the Amonkhet lottery cards. So I think people had a lot of wallet fatigue. I don't think people really bought a lot of Ixalan or the Rivals. And I think that will actually help the price of those uncommon cards in those two sets that are decent. So, just the supply is not as high as it is in some of the other sets. So, and it's got that kitchen table appeal.
Yeah,
people want this in there. They want this in there. Every commander deck wants this that runs creatures. Most any tribal deck wants this. And tribal play is hugely popular for casuals. I mean, how many tribal decks do you have? I probably have 30.
I couldn't. Yeah, I've lost
You know?
count. I have a whole bunch. Yeah, at least 30.
Yeah, and this could go in any one of those.
Yeah.
Or I like it a lot.
Yeah,
very good.
Great card. And one other card really quick. I was just looking at this the other day. Silent Gravestone from Rivals of Ixalan. It's going for, let's see, about 64 cents or so now. I could see this going up, maybe $2, somewhere around there. It's just another one of those things that it has a very kind of specific effect, and maybe in a sideboard or something that you'd put this in. It's an artifact, 1 mana. Cards in graveyards can't be the targets of spells or abilities. And you can exile it to exile Silent Gravestone, and all cards from all graveyards draw a card.
Yeah, it's nice. It is. It's good sideboard. Good sideboard tech for certain against certain decks.
Yeah.
Anything that has graveyard hate that you can easily sideboard in because it's 1 mana is going to see play somewhere.
And colorless. So I think you're exactly right.
Yeah. So yeah. I think that's
it's got a lot of potential.
It's going to go up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I have one card for this week, and then I have a review of I believe one of my picks from the very first episode. So my pick for the week is a card that's been reprinted a couple of times. It originally was a Mirrodin card. It has since been reprinted in Eternal Masters and Arch Enemy, and most recently in Commander 2018. The Commander 2018 reprint is the one that has tanked the price to its lowest, its all-time low. This card is called Duplicant, and the Duplicant is not a low casting cost card. It is a 6-mana, 2/4 creature, colorless artifact with imprint. It is essentially removal, and it says when the Duplicate enters the battlefield, you may exile target non-token creature. So you basically exile any of your opponent's creatures, or technically even yours, and the Duplicant essentially becomes a copy of that card with its power and toughness. The reason I like it is, there's a couple of reasons. Number one, it's a great kitchen table card, a great commander card. Even though it's 6 mana, it removes your enemy's creature and gives you their creature, and it goes in any deck. So it's typically around a $3 card. Its recent reprint has dropped it down to $1 in the last.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a really good card for $1 even. And I started looking at this a little bit earlier in the week, and it's actually crept up a little to $1 and $1.18. So I could see this card. Honestly, you know what? I think it could go to $2 to $3. I think that's reasonable. I think if I bought, and I probably have 3 play sets of this, and if it goes to $3, I'm starting to sell them as play sets. So that's my pick of the week. Nice. My review pick is actually one that I just wanted to kind of revisit, and it was from the first I believe ever podcast, and it was
wow.
I know, right? 10 weeks ago. It's our anniversary
if you were here,
issue.
Then you are awesome.
So, that's right. And this is one just to give a price update, because this one's actually doubled in price since that time. And it's the Soul of New Phyrexia. So, Soul of New Phyrexia, at the time, I think I bought about 4 to 6 play sets of the Soul of New Phyrexia. I paid between 40 and 50 cents for this guy. And now he's $1. So $1 is as cheap as he gets. So he's doubled in the past 10 weeks. And even at $1, he's not bad, but he's not as screaming a deal as he was when he was 50 cents. Sure. So that's about it for me for the week.
I mean, you hear something like, you say, 40 cents to $1. You're like, that doesn't sound like a whole lot. But you think about it, if you look at it in the percentage terms, I mean, basically more than doubled in price. So that is significant.
Yeah, and sometimes when you get these cheap cards, you buy a whole bunch of them. I buy them in play sets. So, so it's like, okay, I bought them, 4 of them for $2, and then I sell 4 of them for $4. Although honestly, I haven't sold any, and I probably would wait until he reached about $1.80. But, Yeah. So But you're right. Percentage-wise, percents are what matter.
Exactly. That's a huge markup right there.
Yeah. So I think Travis, we got to thank you for coming on, man.
Yeah,
We really
thanks.
thanks for having me.
Travis.
add
Appreciate
some
it.
fun
Of
new
course,
blood to
now
the
that since you're our first guest, we're gonna have to have you back in, some future episode
Oh, that would be great.
to mark your return.
Excellent. Yeah. Maybe in a while we can revisit your picks and see how they've done.
Absolutely.
Oh,
We'll
yeah.
we'll put you on the spot.
All right. That sounds good.
Well, I'll ask you one last hard question, Travis. What's your favorite card? If you could pick one card.
Oh man.
My favorite card.
It's hard.
This is so.
It's a hard question. I mean,
Like I said, when I
you
was
can approach it from any angle.
when
You
I
like
was
the art
really
or
getting
whatever.
into the game, it was that Lorwyn block, and my favorite card was Memory Plunder, because I think that's the
Oh.
card
Oh.
that
on
initially
our list.
I did not see the value in a card like that, and as I got better and better at the game, that card started seeing a lot of play in my decks, and that is always a card that playing kitchen table, playing EDH, whatever, when you drop that Memory Plunder, it's a good feeling.
It
It's a
is
fun card.
great. I want to say that was one of my picks from episode
It
2.
was.
Okay.
It was. You
Yeah.
had picked that one. Yeah.
40 cents for that bad boy.
Yeah,
What a deal.
that's a steal.
Screaming deal. Yeah. It's a
Yeah.
great card. And plus it gives you the ability to cast spells that are not instant speed at instant speed.
Oh,
When you drop out a huge sorcery at instant speed from somebody's graveyard, man, that's awesome.
That's
Mhm.
pretty cool.
So,
Yep.
yeah, you're
Good old
darn right.
Shadowmoor.
Oh yeah.
Good
Great
stuff.
Nice.
Awesome.
Sweet. Well, yeah. Thanks again, Travis, for joining us. We'll definitely have you back here in the future.
Anytime.
Very good.
Sweet. And I guess a few just reminders as we close up here. Always we do have videos on YouTube, so check us out on YouTube. Just look under MTG-Profits. They're just video versions of the podcast, but go ahead, check it out. Maybe you like to listen to YouTube instead. Check us out on the web too. The website is under development, but trust me, it's going to have lots of great stuff on it, stuff you're not going to see other places, and some unique takes on some things. So that's just www.mtgprofits.com. Check it out. That's on its way, and lots to come on that. And before I forget, and like I was talking to you earlier, Dev, we need to do our recap here on all the picks. So, Travis, I think it was Fairy Macabre and Teferi.
Yes.
Mamonara. And
Yes.
I had Unclaimed Territory and the Silent Gravestone. And Dev, you wrapped things up. You had the Duplicant. And we had a revisit to Soul of New Phyrexia.
Yeah,
Correct.
mostly the duplicant today at
Yeah.
a dollar would be my my purchase pick. Yep.
Great.
Very good.
Cool. You got anything else, Dev?
No, I think that about does it.
Sweet.
And again, yeah.
Well,
Wrap
thanks,
up episode 10.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us for episode 10. Number 10. So, lots more to come. So, stay tuned, and may your picks always be profitable.
Excellent.
We'll see you guys later.
Later.
Okay. Bye.